Hi everyone. I'm back with another product design mock interview. So today I am thinking to again build upon the overall live case study experience, particularly from a product design mock interview perspective. And yeah, so as I was starting to look at the list of important questions back on the website, we are in the product design interview section. We covered Instagram stories. Then we also covered design a product for drivers driving in rush hour. This was asked at Meta. This was asked at Google. The next question that we have here is, how would you build a Facebook product for blood donation? It was asked at Meta. Another popular product design question. So my goal is to actually practice this question live with you guys. I'm reducing the time from reducing the time from 45 minutes last time to actually 40 minutes. The eventual goal is to actually go towards 35 minutes, because usually an interview is timed for 45 minutes, and there could be like 5 minutes of intro and 5 minutes of questions to ask to the interviewer. So ideally the time to wrap up a product design interview would be somewhere around 35 minutes. So I'm slowly and steadily trying to time box myself to create a solution and summarize everything in 35 minutes. But for today, let's keep it as 40 minutes. And here, yeah, we spent 45 minutes today. Let's spend another 40 minutes on this. So it would be a total of 85 minutes. And I'll just clean things up a bit. Yeah. So number of hours spent. Okay. I have the question here. How would you build a Facebook product for blood donation? And we can begin. Okay. So since we are talking about building a Facebook product for blood donation, this is how I would structure our discussion for today. Let's begin with some clarifying questions. Try to understand the scope of the problem, the goal of the problem. Why are we actually trying to build a Facebook product for blood donation? And we can look at any possible constraints, like resource constraints or time constraints. So that would be, let's say, our set of clarifying questions. Once we have a good enough understanding of the goal and the context, we'll talk about the mission of the company and ensure that the goal set is actually aligned well with the mission of the company. And once the mission and the goal clarifying questions are set, we can talk about any competitive space. So competitive space essentially means that, are there any products out in the market that do blood donation? It would be like pretty brief. We can talk about it if there is any, so that we can gain inspiration from others. But if not, pretty cool. Then let's try to double down into the problem space, which it would be essentially talking about our users. And after talking about the users, let's talk about the pain points of these users. And this would essentially be everything around problem statement. Once we have figured out the problem or the pain point that we want to tackle, we'll structure a few solutions around it and prioritize the solution and come up with success matrix and summarize the discussion. So this is how we would go about it. And to actually make it even clearer, let's probably note it down as to what we would cover. So in clarifying questions, this is essentially what we will try to answer. Then there is mission and align opening of the goal with mission. Any competitors to check, and users and pain points. And finally, we would obviously prioritize our maximum 1 to 2 pain points. Yeah, and here there would be, let's say, a total of 3 pain points. Okay, let's begin with this. And obviously we can set up the context first, then we set up our problem statement, and then we eventually deep dive into the solution segment. Okay, let's talk about the question. How would you build a Facebook product for a blood donation? Let me first actually try to clarify what do we mean by developing a Facebook product for blood donation. Are we talking about, let's say, developing a new Facebook product, or are we just talking about, let's say, a special place within Facebook product that is dedicated to blood donation, pretty similar to marketplace within Facebook or groups within Facebook, something similar? And I would assume here that we are talking about a special segment or a section within Facebook. And we're not talking about anything such as Instagram or WhatsApp, specifically Facebook. We're not really focused on building a new product in itself, pretty similar to like an Instagram ecosystem or a WhatsApp or an Oculus. It's just another feature within the Facebook world. So that is about the Facebook product. Second would be, what is blood donation? Now, just to clarify, I mean, blood donation is more like an exercise where I, as an individual, can go to any organization such as a hospital, a non-profit organization, or something similar, and then just donate my blood for free. I do not get any money. It's just a social cause wherein I can donate a certain amount of milliliters of my blood, and in return, I probably just get probably some goodies or something, but nothing special, nothing to be really greedy about as a donor. And that is essentially how I define blood donation. And from a Facebook product scope perspective, this exercise of blood donation is more or less going to be a platform mediator, where Facebook essentially acts like a platform between the donor, which is me, and the receiver, which is, let's say, a hospital or an organization that is intending to collect blood from all of the donors in a particular locality. And that is essentially it. So yeah, in terms of scope, obviously limited to locality, mediated as a platform between donor and receiver, and that is pretty much it. There's no transaction fee or something that is required. Okay, now since we have clarified the scope, gotten like a good enough understanding, I would assume that because it's a product within Meta, there are no time or resource constraints here. And we can directly go to talking about the goal. Now, goal, there could be obviously multiple types of goals that we could set. One could be, let's say, user acquisition. Another could be user engagement. Or another could be monetization. Now, given that it's a blood donation exercise, I would assume that Facebook is not really intending to monetize this product. At least in the beginning, it is more or less considered as a social impact product. Related to user acquisition, like Facebook has like over 1 billion users, I would assume, and the user base is pretty huge. And I specifically feel that this specific feature of a blood donation product within Facebook is not necessarily going to create or attract new users on the platform. There are way there are many other value proposition features within the Facebook product to attract new users. This would just be a cherry on the cake, but not necessarily the meat. It's not the main value proposition that Facebook offers. So new user acquisition does not really seem like a very good goal, considering the product that we are trying to build. Now, when we talk about user engagement, now user engagement is something on the lines of, we have, let's say, a good chunk of users. It's a very large user base on Facebook, and we want to make sure that these users are actually interacting with Facebook more. Let's say that on an average, a particular user is spending 30 minutes on Facebook. And with this blood donation cause, we can increase the number of views, interactions, RSVPs on the pages, and there could be like a potential interaction between the organization, like a hospital, and the user. And it essentially creates more page views, time spent on Facebook platform, and essentially increasing the user engagement, which feels like a very good goal. So let's prioritize the goal as user engagement. And when we try to define user engagement, we can talk about a very specific definition within user engagement. And let me think out loud. One could be time spent on Facebook, and it could be more on the lines of incremental time spent on Facebook. The others could be, what other types of engagements can I foresee from a user perspective? Obviously, incremental views, interactions such as likes, shares, comments, messages between friends. And even there could also be an effort where we could reactivate a particular user. So let's say that reactivation could be something. So this is another thing that we could measure when it comes to user engagement. Okay, what else? I think this would be pretty much it. So let's focus on user engagement. I believe incremental time spent on Facebook would not necessarily be relevant here, because it's just a user engagement effort wherein blood donation happens occasionally. It's not a very active cause. There could be like a few donation camps happening per month in a particular locality. So it would, and I do not expect myself as a user to really see a drastic change in my time spent on Facebook. But definitely there could be a good enough incremental impact on the page views, interactions, having interactions with my friends related to blood donations, and even bringing them back to Facebook if they have not been using Facebook. So I would probably, even within user engagement, try to focus on the second goal, which is views, interactions, as a piece of engagement. Now, let's talk about Meta's vision. Now, Meta's vision is obviously bringing the community together. And I think this goal of creating a Facebook product to actually improve user engagement, views, interactions, and these things are actually very well aligned with the mission. So I would say that the goal is actually aligned well with the mission. In terms of competitors, well, to the best of my understanding, I do not know of any social platform that actually has a very specific or a dedicated product to blood donation. So I would not really dive deep. I would not really dive deep into competitors to check, particularly from a blood donation product perspective, again, within a social platform. So I can probably just move forward and think about the users. And once we have the users, we can think about prioritizing the users. And the prioritization of users can happen based on multiple parameters, such as target addressable market, which is, let's say, the market size. Then we can talk about the growth of the target addressable market. Is this donor user base, donor target addressable market probably going to increase or decrease? And the third one could be reach of addressable market. Like, as a Facebook product, as a Facebook blood donation product, if let's say the target addressable market is 100, how many of those 100 can we reach? It's essentially, let's say, the market share. Okay, so based on these three parameters, we can probably prioritize our user, one of the users among multiple. So I'll probably just take a couple of minutes to write down my thoughts on the possible user segments that we could have. Okay, the first user segment that I can actually think of is the donor itself. And the second user segment that I can think of is the receiver. Now, within donor, I do not expect kids to donate. So let's probably start with young adults. Then probably let's move to adults. And then let's go to elderly. And again, it is not recommended probably for the elderly to it's not recommended for kids and elderly to donate blood. So probably young adults and adults. And within these, we could further distribute or further segment these users into healthy versus unhealthy, probably fit for donation versus not fit for donation. So obviously, we need to make sure that of these young adults and adults, they are definitely fit for donation, blood donation. Okay. I think I do not necessarily have to. Okay, so there would be obviously some exceptions, such as, pregnant people, or some disease, people with a disease, or maybe there is, let's say, some smoking or alcoholic population segment that we cannot really consider here when it comes to blood donation. Okay, within receivers, it could be hospitals. It could be like enterprises versus small. So let's do enterprises, SMBs. Then there are NGOs, non-profits, and by the way, these are more like clinics. NGOs, non-profits. Yeah. And there are probably also blood donation specific organizations, I would assume, who might be interested into doing blood donation. Okay. Well, there are also intermediaries. So for example, I have known a situation where a school is organizing a blood donation camp, but the receiver still is probably like a hospital, but school is more like an intermediary entity between the donor and the receiver. And for the purpose of this discussion, I would just exclude those intermediaries for now. So I'll just write intermediaries, example schools. But again, let's not look into this user segment for the purpose of this discussion. Okay. Now, what do we which user segment within donor and receiver do we prioritize? Now, first of all, I think these are two sides of the same coin. The donor donates the blood and receiver gets the blood. Eventually, we are both are working towards the same cause, but I would probably go more with the receiver segment, and the reason being, let's also write it down. Receiver segment, because I mean, they are in critical need, first of all. It's more like on the demand side. So and the demand of good blood from a hospital or an organization perspective is pretty critical to ensure that they are saving lives. So it's pretty important. For the donors, it's more like a good to have. Like, there are obviously some hesitations when it comes to donors thinking twice about making a donation. It might be because of multiple reasons, such as awareness issues, lack of confidence or trust, or even questions around their own health. So they are hesitant when it comes to donating. But if the receiver actually gets appropriate blood on time, they can help in emergency situations as the go-to place. But an individual might not be the go-to person in all emergency situations, but definitely a hospital can be. So from a criticality emergency perspective, from a demand perspective, it actually makes sense to prioritize the receiver in this case. Okay, so as a receiver of what do I have as potential problems? I do not get enough interest. First of all, I do not get enough interest from donors. Second is, and I do not get enough interest from donors. It could be because of multiple factors. It could be because of, let's say, awareness issues. So let's probably write awareness as one problem. The next problem would be I'm unable to build trust in donors' eyes. I'm unable to build trust in donors' minds related to blood donation. So they are like, donors are usually hesitant about blood donation. So making them feel confident about blood donation as not being harmful to them is pretty important. So here, blood donation is not harmful for donors is the main message that needs to be conveyed. And the other one would be, in cases of emergency, I'm unable to provide blood to emergency situations. And another pain point could be I'm unable to instill trust about my organization in donors' minds. So maybe the donor has hesitation about the organization itself. So we need to make sure that the organization is big or verified, and this problem would more or less be important when it comes to small and medium clinics or hospitals or even NGOs, so non-profits. So we need to make sure that these people are able to build confidence when it comes to donors' mindsets. Okay, and I think that should be a good list of pain points. Let's actually think again. I do not get enough interest, so awareness is definitely an issue. I think do not get enough interest and trust are probably similar. So I would probably remove this and say, okay, I do not get enough interest because of awareness and because of other issues such as blood donation, trust issue in donors' minds. I'm unable to provide blood in emergency situations, but this is pretty important. But it's more like a consequence. So because I'm unable to get blood from donors, I'm unable to provide blood. That's the problem. It's more like a consequence. I would probably put this a bit down. And I'm unable to instill trust about my organization in donors' minds. Yeah, and this is fair. Specifically for not so large hospitals and other organizations. Okay, what else? Awareness, blood donation is not harmful. Okay, I think that should be good enough. Now let's probably try to prioritize these pain points. And I can use certain parameters to prioritize these pain points. The first one would be pain, severity or criticality, severity of the pain point, and even severity and urgency of the pain point. Second could be prevalence, like how prevalent is this pain point? Is this big or small? The third one could be, is this addressable? Addressability of the pain point, can we really address it? The final one would be, is this pain point actually helping us with the goal, which is incremental views, interactions, and basically engagement. Okay, just to recap, we discussed 3 pain points. As an organization, I do not get enough interest. As an organization, I am unable to instill trust about my organization in the donors' minds, and I'm unable to provide blood to people in emergency situations. Now, as I think about it, pain point number 3 is definitely the most severe and urgent. It is going to be prevalent because there are many people who are in need of blood, and there are definitely many use cases where there are many situations where people hunt for help when it comes to getting blood. So it is addressable, it is time sensitive, the pain is really high. And I think what we can probably do is build upon the pain point number 3 and actually address this problem of the sort of emergency that blood donation can solve, and then create and then eventually solve for pain point number 1 and 2. So I would prioritize pain point number 3 as the most important one, and then later on say that, okay, once we have addressed this problem of pain point number 3, let's also try to solve for pain point number 1 and 2 by increasing awareness. Cool. Solutions. So particularly for pain point number 3, the most important thing that we could possibly do the most important thing that we could possibly do here is create a community for blood donation for people to post urgent requests on blood group, blood type they need. Yeah. And once this community is created, obviously we can expect engagement where people can share this message across multiple channels. Within Facebook groups, there could be like shares, interactions, and eventually in the beginning, if the organization itself has the means to provide the blood, that is cool. But if not, we can leverage the P2P community here for help. From here, I think the most important message that we can drive, which the blood donation organization can use as testimonials, would be that, you know what, we have helped X people with blood donations. So, and we are in need of more donations. Come donate. And there would be definitely verified posts from verified organizations. Second, it shows the blood emergencies that these donation camps have solved, have addressed. So it creates a better emotion. It creates a better drive for the donors to actually donate blood, and it is not necessarily then treated as optional. It is not necessarily treated as optional from a donor's perspective. Okay, creating a community. We have helped. We get verified posts. We show the blood emergencies that they have addressed. And then to top it, we create awareness around blood donations. So it could be for obviously the awareness is obviously increasing with this. At the same time, we could do videos, awareness videos from doctors, organizations, more information around health. In fact, improvements that can possibly be coming from blood donation, blogs, etc. So this is more like a content related solution that can be driven uh, by this particular blood donation product. Okay, let's prioritize solution based on impact, effort, and whether the solution helps achieve the goal. So the first one, definitely high impact. High impact effort would be low because just creating a community and posting urgent requests and ensuring that the organization is able to respond to all of the requests and even broadcast these requests to other communities, even other organizations, and even other P2P communities. I think this is going to be extremely crucial, but not necessarily high effort. And it definitely helps achieve the goal because the engagement is increasing. The second one, testimonials, high impact. Yes, we have helped X number of people with blood donations and we are in need of more donations. Come donate. Verified posts. Again, I think the effort is low or probably slightly higher than the first one. And yes, it definitely helps achieve the goal of more engagements because once there is testimonials that are coming in from or the number of people that a particular organization has held with these blood donations, I think the number of RSVPs or views or shares and comments on that particular blood donation event or the organization's page related to the blood donation activity is definitely going to improve. And then eventually videos about awareness. So I think it's moderate to high impact. I think it is important, but creating that level of awareness with the need itself, like, solving for an emergency and ensuring that, what blood donation actually helps people. Once you have those testimonials and feedback and the number of people that you have saved, it automatically creates that need. It automatically creates that impact that you have created, and awareness actually is more helpful from that angle instead of just videos. So I would say that this is moderate impact. It's actually moderate effort as well, moderate to high effort as well, because collecting that content and all of those things will also be pretty operationally heavy. So it is moderate to high effort. So I would probably just prioritize the first solution, obviously as MVP. So let's do solution number 1 as MVP, and then let's do solution number 2 as phase 1. And yeah, this is how we could prioritize. Now let's look at the success matrix of the overall product. So let's do North Star matrix, let's do tracking matrix, and let's also do guardrail matrix. So when it comes to North Star matrix, I think conversion is essentially what we are looking at. Number of blood donations, maybe week over week or month over month or any particular time frame. over a particular time frame. Then there are obviously impressions, RSVPs, interactions such as likes, comments, shares, um, messages, um, video views, and even um, incremental time spent, on Facebook, and even adoption of the blood donation product. So I think these are the tracking matrix that we could look at. A guardrail matrix is something like, maybe the conversion by impression ratio is something to be looked at. We need to make sure that the impressions or RSVPs are not really high and the conversion is low. So there is probably some issue. This is something that we need to definitely look at. We need to also probably look at fraud, wherein, let's say, there are organizations where have received verified badges, but apparently there is some fraud happening when it comes to uh, blood donation exercise. I would also, in the tracking metric, ensure that the number of people, lives saved, or people helped in general is also tracked, because this is pretty crucial, because donations are important, but then again, number of people helped or people's lives saved is also pretty important. Any fraud related to blood donation is also something that we could look at from a guardrail metric. Okay, so finally, let's look at some risks or trade-offs. Yes, definitely. I think one of the risks or trade-offs that we already discussed was fraud related to blood donation, and non-verified orgs are coming in as verified, and there is certain risks. But again, this would probably be under fraud. Blood scandal, or let's say, selling it at a higher price or something. Health of users is probably something to be careful about, that the users are not by any means hampered from a health perspective because of this product. So it's crucial. And there's also government and even health ministry regulations to abide or be compliant with. Okay, all right. So to summarize, I think we understood the clarifying questions. We aligned on the goal. We want to focus on engagement. Looked at the user segments. We focused on the organization or the receiver of the blood donation exercise. We looked at multiple pain points from an organization perspective. Solved for a pain point which is related to not being able to provide blood in emergency situation, and started with that pain point as the biggest priority, built up solutions for those, and addressed it with multiple solutions, created an MVP phase and a phase one for the overall product, and came up with North Star tracking and guardrail matrix, discussed the risks and trade-offs such as being fraud related to blood donation, any health issues that could possibly come, or let's say being approved by government health ministry, or some compliance related things that we should be thinking about. And yeah, that is essentially uh, everything about the product related to blood donation on the Facebook platform. Cool. I think we went over time. Definitely, we need to ensure that next time we are time boxing things in a better way. But yeah, I think it would probably improve over time and with more practice. All right. Thank you, everyone. Let me know how this particular question was, how the approach is. See you next time.